I'm always happy to see World Grand Prix racers get brand new variants. They're some of my favorite characters to collect, and it's always really cool to see new versions of them hit the diecast line. But Race and Rescue Jeff Gorvette is an item that I'm really kind of conflicted on. I'm very happy to see us get a new Jeff Gorvette this year as part of the Race and Rescue line because he was one of the World Grand Prix racers that they skipped in the GRC last year, so having him here in the next line is really, really cool. And I'm happy they did that. But on the other hand, and I'm sure I speak for a lot of us when I say this, I think a lot of us would rather have had Jeff Gorvette in the GRC line than not in it and put in a different line the year after. Right? I still hear a lot of people saying that they want to see the remaining World Grand Prix racers get GRC variants. I agree. I think it's definitely a bit too late for that now, and I've personally moved on, but it would have been cool to get a full set of racers. It puts this Jeff in kind of a strange position where I'm happy he's here. I'm happy he's in the Race and Rescue line. But man, we could have had a GRC Jeff here. Anyway, guys, welcome back to yet another review and to another 2025 Cars Diecast review. Today, we're going to be taking a look at Rally Race Jeff Gorvette, Rally Race 200 Jeff Gorvette, Race and Rescue Jeff Gorvette, whatever you want to call it. All of these are just labeled as their normal name, so we got to make do. This is Jeff's variant in the Race and Rescue series. A pretty exciting item, considering, like I said, we didn't get a GRC Jeff last year, or this year. So getting a new Jeff is pretty cool to see. My favorite thing about this is that it means that Race and Rescue is the first line in the history of the Cars Diecast line. It's the first ever expanded universe line to feature racers from all three movies. We have Chick Hicks from the first movie, Jeff Gorvette from Cars 2, and then several racers from 3 with Cal, Cruz, Storm, and Danny. Now, I think it's pretty cool that they wanted a representative from each movie, and I think it's especially cool they chose Jeff, not only because he wasn't in the GRC, but also because he's an American racer, and, the Rally Race and Race and Rescue is just a little race taking place in Radiator Springs. The rest of the cars there are Piston Cup cars, so having it be the American racer makes sense. He doesn't have to travel as far as, say, Francesco suddenly being there. I would love to tell you a bit more of Jeff's role in the Race and Rescue storyline, but unfortunately, he's missing from the book that just released, so the diecast is all we have to go off of for him. I guess we could just assume, he was supposed to be there, but whatever happened and he didn't end up in the book. Regardless, we have Jeff's artwork here. Pretty nice to see. Again, always cool to get new World Grand Prix variants. This is the first expanded universe Jeff Gorvette diecast since, 2016? Jeff has had a couple of variants in the last handful of years since then. Of course, there's Cars 3 Jeff Gorvette, since Jeff cameoed in Cars 3, and then just, early last year, he got a color changer, so it hasn't been too long without a Jeff, but it's been a very long time since our last expanded universe version of him. We, of course, have the Race and Rescue logo there up in the corner, and I continue to absolutely love this card back style with this big fiery explosion with rays of light and sparks all over the characters. New for 2025 over there, as well as Jeff's 24, which is in a little circular logo there. Moving on to the back, we got some of the other cars in the line, including Morgan Martins, Red, Sally, Luigi and Guido, and Jackson Storm. My stores have been so bad with stocking these cars that the only item from this batch I've reviewed so far is Morgan Martins. Sally will be coming soon, my next review, after Metallic Hydraulic Ramon there, because I found Jeff and Morgan and Sally all at once. Hoping to get the rest of these, especially Luigi and Guido. I know they've been pretty rare out of all the Race and Rescue cars. Why is it that Luigi and Guido almost always end up being some of the rarest ones, right? Anyway, let's pop Jeff out of the package here. There we go. All right. So Jeff here is clearly based primarily on his Cars 2 World Grand Prix design. It's very, very similar to that as compared to the kind of less detailed non-American flag Cars 3 Jeff Gorvette design. Now, the thing with this item is, as happy as I am to see a new Jeff, I'm honestly not the biggest fan of this design. It looks better than I thought it would now that it's out of the package, but there are two things that really bother me with it. The first is the face. I'm really happy to see that every car on this line has gotten a brand new facial expression. Even like Adam Rodriguez has a different face in the Race and Rescue line, and I'm really really glad that cars having new expressions has just become the standard for variants over the last few years. I think that's great, and I'm happy to see them do a new one for Jeff. The problem is Jeff Gorvette's mouth, his mouth that's just part of the Jeff Gorvette mold we've always had, doesn't really allow for a wide variety of expressions. You know, all the other Jeffs, they have this pretty angry, determined look, and that's because it matches pretty perfectly. You know, the eyes and mouth were designed together for the original Jeff, and they just kept it across all of his variants. There really aren't all that many faces that work with this mouth expression, right? Like, look at that. Look at the eyes with the mouth. I just don't think they match super well. They have pulled off an alternate Jeff expression before with the Ice Racer, who was looking off of the side, but I really think in order to make a Jeff with this face work, where he has kind of this, like, calmer expression, I really think he needed a different mouth, you know? That would have been really, really nice. And I'd say, oh, maybe they wouldn't go out of their way and make a completely separate mold that just changes the mouth. But that is something we've seen before. Unfortunately, it didn't happen here. He's just got this kind of awkward face where I don't think the eyes and mouth match all that well. It does look better than I thought it would. It especially looks better than the early prototype we saw. But I don't know. He looks like he's holding in a sneeze. We have the Rally Race 200 logo there on the hood with its dark blue, red, and gray color scheme, as well as the Corvette logo on the hood, something that is, of course, missing from a lot of the early Jeff Gorvette variants. Moving on to the side, we have those multicolored wheels a lot of the cars in this line have, the red in the back and kind of gray in the front, kind of a bluish gray. Unless that's supposed to, actually, I think it is supposed to just be kind of a dark blue. I honestly can't quite tell. On the side, we have a logo with the American flag for his little number emblem there. Pretty similar to his original World Grand Prix logo. I'd really like it if they removed that sort of shield crest, since that's just something that the World Grand Prix racers had. I would have liked if it was just the 24 in the circle like we saw on his little logo in the card back, but whatever. The thing with the World Grand Prix racers is they will almost always have their designs be derivative of the original World Grand Prix design, even if it is kind of weird continuity-wise, right? But whatever. That's the designs we know them to have, so that's the designs the merchandise tends to be based off of. Regarding the American flag design, it looks pretty good. I want to say, was the blue? Yeah, okay, that's pretty cool. The blue of the flag seems to be made intentionally darker to match the blue of the Rally Race logo, which I think is really, really cool. Additionally, they added some gray here to the bottom of the flag, an area that's typically just blank yellow on the original Jeff. And that's really the biggest design change with this Jeff, other than the Rally Race logos being on him. He's an item where I do wish they did a bit more, but if you saw my review of Rally Race Chick, you know I'm not the biggest fan of the Rally Race designs in the first place, purely because the highlight color is gray. I say this basically every time I review an Expanded Universe World Grand Prix racer, but something that they did a lot with the Cherokee cars was simply take the group of characters and add one specific color to all of them for the Cherokee line. So for example, with the Ice Racers, everybody was given these light blue highlights. Every car in the line was given light blue with no exceptions. And just because of how colors and color theory works, some of them are gonna look better than others. Some of them are gonna match better, you know, some of them are gonna look kind of off because not every color scheme looks good with that light blue added. That's always the example I give, because that's always the first one that pops up into my mind. There are some Ice Racers that I think look really great, and some that I think look pretty lame. It's all dependent on how that color integration works. Last year with the GRC, they didn't really do that universal color integration. Instead, they made patterns and design language consistent across the racers. A lot of them had black and white added, but black and white are two colors that you could add to basically anything, and they'll still make the designs work. For the Rally Race series this year, they decided that the color all the racers were going to share was gray. And I just don't get the point of that. Gray is objectively a pretty bland and boring color. It's not really a color you add to spice things up. And I think that gray combined with a really dark blue just gives these guys kind of a dull, drab color scheme universally. I think if we were going for brighter, more vibrant colors, it would have really worked better. I just think it's kind of ridiculous they decided that the accent color on these guys was gonna be gray. Now, there is one item where I think that really works, and that's Jackson Storm. And it's not only because Jackson Storm is typically a very dark gray, but it's because the gray on him is actually metallic. If these were silver, I think it would have worked way, way better if they took the gray accents on these guys and made it like a silver foil design, kind of similar to the foil on Chase Race a lot. I think that would be really, really cool, and it would definitely help the cars pop out a bit more. But with the items we got, unfortunately, we just have these kind of bland gray and dark navy blue colors that I just don't really think pop out. Got the Race and Rescue, Rally Race logo there on the back, in the back corner. And I do actually quite like his spoiler. It's in that dark blue color. We have some red text there and some red on the sides of the spoiler. On the back, we've got the Rally Race 200 logo, the American flag, and once again, the logo there, just similar to that original World Grand Prix design, but with some changes, as you can see. There is a look at the other side, and finally, there is a look at the base, complete with all the legal information you would expect, and the Gorvette trademark as well, of course. So yeah, this is an item that I'm honestly pretty mixed on, and that's what I've been saying with a lot of these Race and Rescue items, because I just don't think the graphic design decisions made for them is the best. When it comes to these racers, I'm just not the biggest fan of the colors they chose to implement on them, and with Jeff, I'm also not the biggest fan of the expression. Am I very, very happy we got a new Jeff Gorvette? Yes. Do I like it because it's a weird, cool, obscure variant? Jeff's the only racer with a Race and Rescue item? Yeah, I honestly think that's pretty cool. It's a cool, obscure, niche variant, but I don't know. Concept-wise, I love it. Design-wise, not the biggest fan, but hey, at the end of the day, it's a new Jeff, so I'll take it. Anyway, guys, thank you all so much for watching. Let me know what you think about this item in the comments, and I'll see you guys next time when we review an item that... if you thought this review was kind of mixed, negative, I'm sorry in advance. Bye now.